Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. I will be showing off the Geotab new features overview, as well as having a good chunk of time here for Q&A, because obviously I understand there's been a lot of changes to Geotab this year, and I'd be happy to walk you through and answer any questions you may have about these changes. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share out my screen, and I want to just make sure that everybody can see that before I continue with what I've got to display today. So I'll share that out here just briefly, and we'll make sure that everybody's able to see that.
Yep.
All right. Everybody's able to see that I'm sharing a blank dashboard. That'd be perfect. All right, wonderful. So I'll dive in here and I'll go ahead and I'll share what we've got today. So this is going to be the Geotab feature overview and Q&A session, as I mentioned before. And the first major change is the work order management, or the FMIS Lite. FMIS, of course, is the fleet management information system. If you're used to using the maintenance options in Geotab previous, then you may have noticed that these changes are massive and are pretty big undertaking overall, but overall an extremely powerful change to the Geotab platform. Basically what it can do now is it can automatically detect maintenance based off your schedules and create work order requests, which can then be transferred into orders and subsequently into jobs. Those jobs can be assigned out appropriately to different users, and everybody can get their job done properly and in a timely fashion, while also tracking information like pricing and updates and changes made to the specific assets. On screen right now, you can see that there's an oil change due for this demo vehicle in 10,000, and it's actually overdue by 18,000 kilometers. So maybe that's something that should be touched on pretty soon. Rather than looking at just a spread or a PowerPoint today, I'm actually going to pull up my demo database that I created specifically for this webinar, which is why there are no dashboard reports. So to find these, what you want to do is you want to open up the maintenance dropdown on the left-hand panel and the maintenance center. If you are a first-time user to this new system, you want to actually open the schedules page. As you see, we've got two built-in options, which if you're seeing this for the first time, you will also see these options, and that is the electrical systems rating insight and the oil life remaining. By default, you will not have any assets added to these, but if you can go ahead and add those if you'd like to have that information monitored. This is reliant on the vehicle being supportive of both of these options, however. So if you're seeing some funky results, it might be worth removing those from the specific work order maintenance schedule. In my example here, I've actually added a yearly maintenance inspection, and I've added 5 specific assets to this maintenance inspection. This will be a yearly inspection as seen by the frequency here. For today's demonstration, I will actually go ahead and add a new schedule entirely, doing so with the schedule button in the top corner. What I want to do is I want to add a name for this. I'll name this one 6-month maintenance. And I will go ahead and add it. This is an entirely customizable name. Now what you want to do is you want to add all the required information. So I'll go ahead and I'll give it a category, and I'll just say preventative. Preventative, if I can spell it correctly. I think that's not correct, but we're going to move on anyway. Maintenance schedule access. This is where you want to add it to specific people who are going to have access to this specific maintenance schedule. And then you want to add any comments you may have about this specific maintenance schedule you're assigning today. The next thing I want to do is frequency. So in this situation, I've got it sent as a 6-month maintenance. So I'm going to open the options here. And instead of doing it by distance or engine hours, which are both options as well, I want to choose by time. And now you see that I'm able to choose the frequency in which this repeats. If maybe this was a monthly schedule, I could do it there. If it was weekly, I could do it there. In my case, my option's not on this list, so I'll choose custom options. And I will repeat every day, week, or month. I'll say month, and I will choose every 6 months. I can even choose the day of the month I want it to repeat on. I'll choose the middle of the month for this specific instance. Next thing you want to do is you want to add the assets to your list here. I'll just go ahead and add a couple just so it's faster for today. I'll add demo 18 and demo 19. Oh, sorry, I'm actually doing that in the wrong spot. I'm going to step back here. That is if I've already have a list, that is to search the assets. To add assets, I actually want to press this add assets button here. Now I'll add a couple of assets. Again, for my demonstration today, this doesn't matter, but I will go ahead and just add 2. If you prefer to add all your assets, that option is here as well. By default, it will take today as the last maintenance date. So you see 1:08 p.m. for today's date is the exact last time. But to actually get some results, I'm going to go ahead and edit this information by pressing this 3 dots and then edit. And what I'll do now is I'll choose the last maintenance date. So for this first example, I'll choose a little while ago, maybe more than 6 months ago, to show that it's an urgent update, an urgent inspection. And for my second one here, I will choose that it was done a couple of months ago, meaning it is not required for about 4 months' time. Once this is all done, I can go ahead and save this here in the top corner. So now we have my yearly inspection and my 6-month maintenance, and again, these 2 preventative maintenances in the center here. I will go ahead now and open the maintenance dropdown, maintenance center, and work order management. So the first tab you'll see is the requests tab. This is basically Geotab taking either those preventative maintenance efforts that they show with the oil rating or electrical life rating, or the newly added maintenance schedules here. So you can see I've got 5 yearly inspections and 2 6-month inspections, all listed by different severity. These severity levels are either 500 miles or kilometers till due, 50 engine hours till due, and 10 hours from being due. That is how you get these different severity levels, of course. This is entirely customizable here as well. If you don't want to maybe see the description or the severity or any of these, you can actually open this gear icon to enable or disable more of these options here. So in my example, I don't actually have any descriptions. I'll toggle that off. And now you see I might have a little more real estate here to drag these columns out. Another option is you can actually sort these by different options. Because I think severity might be the most important, I can actually sort these by severity levels, either descending or ascending from the highest to lowest. So as you see, we've got 3 options here that are rated as high priority changes, and that means they are due or overdue within the next 5 or 10 days, or under 5 days. In these situations, these 3 are actually overdue. So I'll go ahead and I will simply click. You can either click on here. You can't click on the name because this will actually open up the device directly, which we don't want to do. We want to actually create a work order for this. So what I'll do is I'll click on the actual box in between, which I guess doesn't work like I thought it would. So I'll step back again. I'll just go ahead and do the recommended course of action. I'll click on these more actions and I'll create a work order. Now what you'll see is it'll actually load up a new page with a reference number. This will by default choose 5 zeros and then the digit, but this can be customized. If I wanted to say this is a test number 1, I can do that here as well. I now want to go ahead and pick a date. And this is going to be the due on date. So maybe I say it'll be due next week from today. If it's already been done, you can actually pick a date completed as well at this time. You then want to set a priority for what the work will be. In this situation, this is a high priority item because this is due. Actually, it's overdue in the situation. And then you want to assign it to a user. I'll go ahead and I'll assign it to myself. This is basically the person who will get the notification of maintenance being required. The next step is choosing a repair site, which I don't believe I have any zones in this specific testing database, but if you did have a shop available to do maintenance repairs, you would select it here. Next up, you want to choose your reason for repair. In this situation, I want to say it's a preventative maintenance and that it was a scheduled preventative maintenance test. If you do want to update these values, you can do that here. The next thing you want to do is you can actually go ahead and save this right now. And you will now see that now instead of just being a request like we saw before, it has actually been transitioned over to an order, which subsequently creates its job. Work orders can have multiple jobs underneath, which is what I was kind of showing off briefly earlier. If I click into this order, you'll see I've got 1 job listed, and I can actually click into this job and add even additional information, such as the work completed and the VMRS system code, if applicable. This is going to be expanded in the future by Geotab. Another big thing you can do is maybe I come in here to say that this work, instead of being open, has actually been completed. I could mark it as complete, and I could say this cost 10 hours of labor, $1,000 in labor, and then I'll just make up some values here. And you can see it gives me a total. This can all be exported as data at the end of the year or whenever your end of the year might be, and you can actually see your costliest assets this way. So I'll go ahead and I'll save. Oh, unfortunately, I did forget to log a couple of pieces of data here, including when the job was started. I will say it started today. Obviously, you can't pick future dates in the situation. And I will say it was ended tomorrow, just for my example today. Go ahead and I'll save that. And now we're back here into the specific actual work order, and we can see that this specific job is complete. In this situation, maybe something happened and another thing popped up. Instead of closing this work order now by using this job status and setting it as closed, I can actually go ahead and add a secondary job here. I can choose a defect from the list, and I could say maybe that the horn is broken. So I'll say an inoperable horn. And then from here, you can actually do what I showed off before, where you can go through and you can add all the required information about that specific job. In this case, I will not be adding another job, and we will simply be closing this work order. It does look like it created it regardless. I'll go ahead and I'll delete those just for the example today. Once every job is completed within an order, you can go ahead and set that as completed. So now I've got a high priority completed status, and I look under jobs and I can see that my job has also been completed. If you want to only see by specific statuses, the grouping option is available for you at the top here as well. If you don't want to see the completed or canceled, you can go ahead and filter those, and now my list is empty again. Obviously, if you want to see only the completed or canceled, you can go ahead and do that here as well. Like other areas in Geotab, you can see all the filters here as well. If you maybe had a large list of maintenance, you could specify by specific groups or by specific assets. In my case, I'll just choose Demo 5, and now only that vehicle is going to be showing up here on this list. Before I continue, I'll just see if anybody has any questions about the maintenance area before we move on to the next step here. Like I mentioned, there is a Q&A portion open here if you want to send any questions through. If not, we can save that for the end here. I do have a few team members on this call who would be able to answer any questions in that chat as well.
I'm good.
All right, perfect. I'll just move on here, and if anybody has any questions, we can touch on this in the future here. All right, so next up, we've got the Risk Center. So Geotab's Risk Center is a newly added addition here, and it's going to be showing off risk analytics for specific drivers or specific vehicles. And that's the newest addition, is that you can actually specify by drivers in the situation. This is really great because obviously safer drivers equals safer workforce, equals more people left alive at the end of the day. That's the ultimate goal with safe driving, is you don't want any incidents or accidents. And then obviously the cost savings is the byproduct of that safe driving. Looking at this chart here, we can see there's multiple different areas it looks at, including speeding, acceleration, braking, and cornering. At this point in time, Geotab is taking the default rules for these with hopes of adding custom rules in the future. If maybe you want to have custom rules right now, what we can do is we can create a driver safety scorecard, which will not be looking back at any other Geotab data. It'll be very definitive to your own data on your database. The big thing here is the fleet collision number. And again, for example, I will actually pull up a database here. Obviously, because I'm in a test database, it doesn't really have the data I'm looking for. So I'm going to pull up our little internal testing database for this example. From the safety dropdown, I'm going to go ahead and open the Safety Center and then Risk Analytics. And what you'll see now is actually that exact same chart I was just showing in that picture, except now in real time. So we can see these are the top 3 worst vehicles. If you want to see that by drivers, you can click this little toggle at the top and it'll specify by drivers. The collision number here is actually a collision percentage for the next 100,000 kilometers or miles based off Geotab's best knowledge. How they pull this is they actually look at the other 4 million devices currently connected to Geotab, then compare your data to other fleets of similar size. So in this situation, this Accord has high collision risk simply based off speeding. We can see acceleration, braking, and cornering are all average or better, but speeding is where it's at risk. So obviously there's a lot of speeding events that are causing this number to be higher than it probably should be. Somebody like this GMC at the bottom is doing pretty well, 5.4%, with pretty good numbers in these specific areas. You can even see the percentile. So in this case, this is 100th percentile, one of the best of the best. This speeding is in the first percentile, about the worst you can be, unfortunately. This data, while being pretty accurate, is actually a couple of days behind at any given time because obviously it takes time for Geotab to process this data. Similar to everything in Geotab, this can be dove down deeper into specific groups if you choose to do that. And it can also be looked at different time ranges like 7 days, 30 days, 12 months, or any custom period. If you want to look for a couple of years, you could do that as well. And then like you're used to with Geotab, this is all exportable as a PDF or Excel as well. If you maybe wanted to get a report like this every couple of months, we can have that set up as an email report the same way. All right, next up, we've got the Enhanced Assets page. And if you're using Geotab often, this is probably a page you're seeing lots of, and it's got a pretty good overhaul recently. As you see now, we're split up into 3 specific groups, including asset, maintenance, and devices and settings. And as you're probably getting used to, we're not going to look at this in a PowerPoint. We're actually going to pull it up from this testing database I have open for today's demonstration. We'll open the assets page in the top corner here, and we will select demo group 1 here just for this example. So once it loads in, you can actually see all the information you're probably used to seeing, including the name, the VIN, and then the big stuff here is obviously assigning which asset type it is, the powertrain if you choose to do that, and then the grouping is also available here as well. The big thing is obviously you can do driver assignment and hours of service from this page as well, meaning that it can all be done on one simple screen click with more advanced features coming in the next 2 tabs. If maybe you want to go ahead and change the serial number for this device, that is no longer done on this primary page, but it will be done on this last setting here, and I will show that here. Some of the big things you're looking at this new screen is you can actually see the usage over the last 7 days and immediately click this to go to the trip history for that specific vehicle, but I will be showing the trip history here in a few moments. The next thing is obviously you get a quick snapshot at the odometer and the engine hours, and a quick look at where this vehicle is on the map with its last updated time. This is a great way to look. Maybe you brought your vehicle to the shop recently and now it's no longer reporting. You can actually bring up the asset page, zoom in and see that its last stop was at an oil change facility and maybe the device was uninstalled at that time. It'll even tell you the exact date and time that the vehicle pinged. If applicable, of course, you can actually see fuel economy here as well. Not all vehicles are supported by Geotab, but they are looking to improve that every day. The maintenance tab kind of ties back into what I've already touched on, where we can see the work order requests, upcoming requests, any work orders that are currently in process, and then even the last inspection if you're using asset inspections through Geotab. In this situation, those are not occupied for the specific vehicle, but if I were to bring up asset 5, I bet you would see some results. So maybe let's go ahead and do that before we continue. I'll go ahead and leave my changes because I didn't make any changes here that are going to be saved. But now we're on demo vehicle 5. We'll look at the maintenance page and we can actually see there are options here to view the work order requests. So I'll pull up all 3 of these tabs and we can take a look at what they show here. So under the first option, which was critical work requests, there likely won't be any because those are all been cleared up for this specific vehicle. You can see how it works. It actually requests demo 5 as the filter and then looks at those specific severity levels. Next up here, we're actually looking at just requests in general, and we can see here's the next request for that vehicle. Since the inspection's been done recently, the next one's going to be due in 342 days, which is why it's pegged as low. And then the last one is any jobs or orders that have been opened for this vehicle. We can see the one we just completed here. It's set to high, and it has been completed. The next thing is the assets fault page, which you've probably seen as well, but I'll go ahead and show it off today. This is going to look at any vehicle or device faults from the specific Geotab device and even the asset it's installed in. So pressing view all will open up a new page here, which will let you see the specific faults for this vehicle. Since this is a demo group, it might not have many options here for you today. We'll go ahead and we'll expand this back the past week and just see. And if not, we can actually go ahead and pull up a real vehicle to see if maybe it has some faults we can look at today, just to make sure we have everybody understanding what's going to be shown on this page. So we're just going to go ahead and pull up my testing database here we have internally. I'll pull up a vehicle that I know has been driven, and we will take a look here at what faults have been thrown from the specific vehicle. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mike's GMC is in great shape and there are no faults, or maybe there's going to be lots here. So we'll pull up the last month, and we'll even look at the telematics device faults. Okay, so we've actually got a few this time. So you can basically filter it by either vehicle or telematics device. Vehicle will pull anything from the ECU where the device is plugged into the vehicle, while telematics device will look at only specific faults to the device plugged into the vehicle. In Mike's case here, we can see that this device was unplugged and removed. There was a firmware update and the device was reset due to a parameter change. While none of these really cause any threat to me because I can see the device is reporting properly, it looks like it was lightly plugged back in. Another good thing to look at is if your vehicle is never responding on your Geotab database, you can look at the faults page and make sure that there's no device fault unplugged occurring right at the end of that of when the vehicle stopped reporting. Clicking into this, you can actually see a wider range of information about this. Noregon is the newest addition with Geotab, and basically it'll be a much more enhanced version of Geotab's fault page. And as you see, it'll actually go ahead and even tell you much wider range of information about this specific fault. If it was a vehicle device fault, it'll actually tell you the specific P code and likely the cause and fix for that specific P code. If you don't have this currently enabled, I can go ahead and walk you through how to enable that right now as well. From clicking on your name in the top corner, you want to expand the options dropdown, select beta features, and in my case, I always enable that they're all on because I want to have all of the new features as soon as I can. But otherwise, it should be down here as a new faults page. As long as you have that enabled, then you will be seeing that new Noragon integration and have a wider information into what your faults actually mean within the platform. Once that's been turned on, you want to make sure you save in the top here. You'll see a little green banner indicating it's been saved. If you're not seeing your results immediately, just refresh your page and you should see that information populate. Let's go ahead and pull that screen back up. All right, and the last tab under the new assets page is devices and settings. And this is a really powerful page as well. Obviously, the thing you can see that you're probably expecting to see is you can see your Geotab version number, whether the device is active or not, the serial number, and then you can even enable or disable audio feedback. If you wanted to have your device beep when people are speeding, you can do that here. You can even go ahead and add in these custom overrides, similar to what you've probably seen in the past, where you can have the Geotab device ping for after the ignition has been turned off. We don't always recommend these, and if you have questions about these, please contact your account manager, and they'd be happy to walk you through these custom parameters and custom setup steps. Other things you'll find on this page include NFC reader if you have those enabled or disabled, and even if you want the auxiliaries enabled or disabled. If maybe you're looking to log some snow plowing information, you can go ahead and log those here as well. As you see, there is an option here for other devices. This is basically if you have any other third-party devices or cameras installed. In this situation, I don't have anything on this demo vehicle, but a good thing I came prepared because I've actually got a screenshot of what it would look like. In this situation, you can see this is the left-hand pane that we just saw, and on the right-hand pane, it is no longer blank. It now has a SurfSight camera, and we can actually access all the settings for this camera here. There isn't a show it advanced options here, and that would expand down to where you individually set up all your specific camera features. Once you input that serial number, this entire screen will be populated, and you can make any required changes there. Next up is the map update. So obviously the map has seen a big overhaul as well this year, and I think is really great changes overall. And I'm going to go ahead and show those off here as well. So again, we've got all those beta features turned on, which I did show off before. Next step is you want to click on the map. Again, I didn't make any changes. I'm going to bypass that screen. So now we've got all of my assets here moving on the map. You can see that there's some cool information like 5%, 4%. That is basically a look at how much battery these vehicles have. In this testing database, these are all hybrids or battery electric vehicles. So I will see that value here. If you maybe only wanted to see a specific vehicle, you can actually just go ahead and type it in here. I'll say maybe 18. I want to see demo vehicle 18. And now it'll zoom me in on that specific vehicle. As you see, it's moving in real time, as that's the newest feature as well through the Geotab map, is any device will actually move in real time. Hovering over this vehicle, you can actually see the speed in which it's driving, 65 in this specific time. If you want more information about this vehicle, you can actually click on it directly on the map. It'll bring up a nice little page here. The first one obviously is locate, which it'll just bring you right to the screen like I just showed you there. The next one up, which I'll save for last, is actually trip, because that's going to be the trip history. You can actually edit the asset as well. Maybe if you see the name of this vehicle is no longer correct, you can actually press edit and it'll bring open that asset edit page like I just showed off there before. If you wanted to hop in here and maybe change the name of the asset or change the grouping as part of or whatever you might want to change, that option is available here. The next up is actually message, where you can send the driver a message via the Drive app. Again, that is reliant on drivers using that app. The next option is sharing the asset location. So maybe this is a delivery vehicle going to drop off some hardware to somebody. You can actually generate a link, a temporary link for this vehicle, and send this to somebody who's not on Geotab. So I could go ahead and choose when it's live from and when it expires from and where the end location is. I can even select the radius, meaning that if this vehicle is within 3 kilometers radius of the location, then the person is able to see it. Otherwise, they're no longer showing on the map. And this is a shared link that you can send to any end customer, and they'll be able to track only that specific vehicle without being accessible to Geotab's database. The next thing is you can still assign drivers like you've expected before. If maybe you know this driver is being driven by, or this vehicle has been driven by a specific driver, you can add that directly on the map. In this testing database, there aren't any drivers at this time, so I'm going to disregard that option. The next thing, which I'm going to touch on the trip history here in a second, but the next thing that the map is really improved on is the area activity option. You can see on my screen in the top corner, there's an area activity button, which is currently grayed out, and that is simply because of my zoom level. If I zoom in a little closer, now you can see the option becomes available. What this is going to do, it's going to take a look at this specific area of the map and find out anytime any vehicles have been in that area at any timeline. Just for today's demonstration, to make sure it loads nice and quickly, I'll actually zoom in nice and tight here on this specific area, and I'll choose area activity for today. It'll now look at just that window I've got zoomed in on. And we'll just let that load here, and we'll show you what it looks like here. So now what it'll do is it'll load up the information from any vehicle you have on your database, and it'll find any time of vehicles driven through that specific area on the map. It's just going to take a little bit of time to load as it is looking through all 30 vehicles that this database has assigned to it. We'll just give that a few seconds. So here it is, and now it is loading through, and we can actually see all the vehicles that have been through the specific area and their time and date. And once it populates on the map, you'll actually see every line that goes through the specific area on the map as well, which it looks like there are many, many to choose from. So maybe I should have been a little bit more careful with my selecting, but we'll let it be anyway. So here we go. So now you can see that line is nice and thick, meaning that there's been lots of vehicles driving on this specific area of the road. And we can zoom out and see all the vehicles here. While this might look a little bit daunting at this time, this can be really customized into specific area time zones. So say if you're looking for a garbage pickup at a specific house, you could zoom in on that house and you could use this area activity button to see who went through that area at what time to verify that yes, your garbage was picked up. This vehicle came through yesterday at 9 a.m. and here's the street map view of the vehicle going by. So that's the new area activity feature. The area activity button has been here for a long time, but this is actually just the new feature of it. Some other things that aren't new to the map, but still worth touching on, is in this bottom corner here, the layers option. As you see, there are a lot of options within this page, and this simply allows you to enable or disable specific features. Say you don't like looking at a flat map like this, you'd rather look at a satellite view, you can actually do that here directly on the Geotab platform. If you wanted to not see the assets at all, you could toggle them off and have a totally clear map. Even if you wanted to enable or disable the vehicle names, you can do that here as well. Yeah, so that's a great touch point there as well. There was an issue recently where the driver names and vehicle names were disabled. If you are encountering that issue, that is under the layers icon here, and then you want to ensure that these labels are enabled for your vehicles. So now diving into the last part of today's demonstration, and that'll be the trip history. So I'll go ahead and I'll click on any asset. There are two ways to get here, but I'll show this way right now. I'll click on the asset like I've done before. I'll click on view trip, and it'll load up this new trip history option. So as you see, it'll just load up in a totally different screen, and it'll show you the last couple of trips here. Again, if I clicked on the wrong asset, this is easy to change by using this drop down here. I can simply deselect 18 and select 19. Again, if you have this by driver, you can actually look at specific drivers opposed to vehicles this way as well. And then, of course, like Geotab offers elsewhere, you can actually specify date ranges for this as well. So with the new trip history, stuff is much more clean at first view. As you see, it looks like there's only 2 trips, but you can see in this specific day, there's actually 19 stops. In this day, there are 16 stops. I can actually click either on this little window here, or I can click on where it says 19 stops, and you'll see now it expands down. Not only does it expand, it also will actually open the map and we can follow that trip directly. If you really want to follow that trip, you can even click this trip replay button and it'll actually show you the trip in real time. So in this case, this is a 5-hour long trip playing at 20 times playback. If I wanted to see it at 200 times playback, we can watch this guy drive all around the city. So there he goes, and we can follow it that way. As you see here also, there are little exclamation points showing that there were exceptions logged, and I can actually click on that exception and see exactly what happened. In this case, we can see this person might have been speeding at a specific time, and maybe if that's something you want to look into, you can do it that way. If maybe it's an issue with your Geotab settings, that also could be used to determine that here as well. If you do have specific exceptions caught here for when your engine has a fault, you can also have that showing here as well. And that also is why the path is red opposed to the normal color. Red basically means an exception was logged during that time. If you wanted to be more specific on which ones you see, you can actually select these individually. If you don't want to see all of these paths, you can actually select them individually. If I only want to see these first three, you can click on just those first three, and now you'll only see those on the map, which again, really cleans up what you're looking at overall. Again, there is an option to clear the map entirely. If maybe your map's getting a little bit too busy, you can clear the map, and now it's back to being exactly blank, where you might want to start from once again. With this trip history, you actually can go as far as seeing many vehicles at once. While I don't always recommend it, as it does get kind of messy, if you're looking for a person going on a specific path, I would advise using that area activity tool rather than trip history, as you might notice it's going to become very, very messy on the map as all these vehicles are driving over similar streets over the course of this entire day. But for the heck of it, we're going to try loading all of them at once and just seeing what it looks like on the map when you've got multiple vehicles selected for an entire day period driving around the area of Toronto here. So there we go. It looks like because this is a demo database, it looks like they follow very linear routes. So I appreciate that for today's demonstration. It's not as bad as it looks. And that is everything that I wanted to cover today. If you have any additional questions, feel free to drop them in the chat today and we can cover them. If not, you should have my email and I'd be happy to walk you through anything else after the fact here. I guess there is one more thing I would like to touch on just briefly. While these are not features that are available right now, it actually goes back to the work order management. Geotab is looking to implement the asset inspections directly into the work order management, basically meaning if somebody logs a specific error or a defect, then it'll actually be logged within work order management as a request. And that's a really cool feature because then obviously stuff is even more automated than it's already been. All right, we do actually have a question. For the safety risk of drivers, what is the context for cornering, speeding, etc.? Yeah, of course. So that'll be, like I said, the Geotab defaults. So I'll go ahead and I'll pull those up here. Under the groups and rules and then rules, you will see at the very top of this page here, we've got some defaults set up. And this is what it'll be looking at for those specific instances. Like I said, we are looking to hopefully get a wider range of options available to you. But in this case, it's looking at passenger cars at this acceleration. Hard acceleration, same deal, and then speeding anytime somebody goes 20 kilometers or more over the posted road limit. If you're comfortable with Geotab, you know that you are able to add your own custom rules here as well. Unfortunately, those will not be reflected on that risk analytics page here. This will simply be what is built in. Let's see if we've got the do we have one on this page? It doesn't look like we do, unfortunately, but there is actually a driver safety scorecard that we can also enable, which will look more deeply into those custom rules as well. Thanks so much for the question. Battery life for Petro. I see what you're saying. So you're looking to see like maybe the percentage of driving time left for these vehicles. So I'll take a look at Mike's GMC, for example, as this is a real vehicle. We can see in this instance here, this is a strictly fuel vehicle, and we can see its fuel life is 10%, and there's actually even the fuel economy for that vehicle as well. I see. Okay, so you're looking for that as well under the work order management. We'll take a look here for you. So I don't believe there's any way to filter by specific words, but I'll take a look here for you. References might be the best if you're making sure to enter those references like I showed off earlier. It does appear as though references is now a searchable field. So if you have a reference for brakes, you could actually go ahead and filter those by brakes directly. I'll pull up our other database here as well to see if there's more results that we could search by here. So this is a little testing database as well. We'll take a look if there's more references to search from. And it looks like there are in this case. So I'll go ahead and I'll try that. And yeah, so it is just searchable by work order reference. So that might not be exactly what you're looking for. So I will bring that back to Geotab to see if there is an option, because I do understand that that would be a little bit of a pain. My only recommendation would be simply by Control F and then searching in what you're looking for here, just at the top of your page. So if I were looking for, I don't know, test defect. That's the best workaround I have at this time, unfortunately, Mike. But I will bring that back to Geotab about hopefully giving the option to search by specific maintenance types. Does anybody else have any questions about what was covered today? If not, we can all get about 22 minutes back, and you can follow up with me anytime via email. It's jordan@advtracking.net, and I'd be happy to help out with that. I'll even type that in the Q&A here just to make sure everybody has that. And then I'm going to start a poll here, so if anybody wants to go ahead and say what they thought about the webinar today, it'd be greatly appreciated so we can ensure to improve next time. If nobody has any other questions, we'll go ahead and end this today. And I appreciate everybody for joining. And this has been recorded. If you'd like a copy of the recording, feel free to let me know and I can send that your way as well. Thank you so much for joining today. Goodbye.